Sexual abuse is just any touch, anything you do to somebody
Yes.
with sexual arousal in mind. It broke me in so many ways. Mine was not one or two cases, it was more where you are a child, but some older men deem it fit to use you as a romance toy. I was having panic attacks when I sleep. I was born out of wedlock. So your body takes record of every single thing that happens to you, whether you do or you don't. Therapy does not replace God. My name is Esther Otoka. I'm a Christian therapist, and by that, I combine professional expertise with God's word to bring emotional healing.
Hi everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Miss Omalichukwu. If you're new to this channel, here I talk about faith, life and confidence. And today I have a beautiful Christian therapist. I'm going to be asking her some questions about pain, trauma, depression and the likes, and she's going to be answering us. So before we start, I'd like her to tell you about herself and what she does.
Okay, thank you very much for having me on your channel today. My name is Esther Otoka. I'm a Christian therapist, and by that I combine professional expertise with God's word to bring emotional healing. I'm an author, I'm a writer, and I am the CEO and founder of the Healers Cave Limited, a faith-based therapy firm.
Okay, so now I'm going to be asking her the first question, and the first question is, what are the three crucial things that one must know about pain?
Okay, three things to know about pain. Number one is that pain can be overwhelming, can be so drastic, but it is not an identity, it is just an experience. When you understand this, it will be easier for you to heal, because you're no longer seeing yourself as the pain, but you're seeing yourself as one who has gone through or who is going through pain. And then secondly, pain is something you can heal from. It is not an end. It is not an end, it is just part of a journey. And then the third thing is that pain can make or mar you depending on what you do with it. You know, pain is not really the major problem. The problem is how you see it and how you respond or react to it.
So this is your last point about pain making or marrying you. Can you talk more about that? Because I know that some people, it's true, right? Some people actually, they have gone through pain, they have gone through one thing or the other, and you find out that later they use that thing they went through to start preaching, to start teaching people, to start their own NGO, to start something, worth it. So let's talk about that, how pain can make or mar you.
So when we talk about pain making or marrying you, there is this thin line where we often drift to idolize pain, the from grass to grace story. And I am of the opinion that pain is not compulsory. I have to state that so that when we are progressing in the discussion, people have to understand, if you've not gone through pain, it doesn't mean you will not succeed in life. Right? So, but yes, there is grace to grace. It is still something. It must not be grass to grace. But yeah, when you've gone through pain or you're going through pain, it can make you depending on what you do with it. It can make you depending on how you respond to it. The normal response of pain in human beings is sometimes withdrawal, becoming a monster, allowing it to make you into something you are not. But then there are also other people who see pain as it's not something we plan for, right? You just experience it, maybe the loss of a loved one, the loss of a relationship. It has happened. So what do you now do? You pick yourself and keep running. That is where pain becomes something that makes you. That is why you see people who have been made by pain, permit me to use that word, you see that they become more expressive because there is nothing to hold back anymore. You've already broken out of something. So I think that's
beautiful. So pain can make or mar you depending on what exactly you want to use your pain for. So the second question is 3 subtle signs of unresolved trauma in everyday behavior. 3 subtle signs. How do you know that somebody has unresolved trauma in how they live their lives?
Okay, trauma is one of the things you can't hide. That is the truth. It shows itself in many ways, even if you do not recognize it. I would start by giving this example. When you have a wound, even if somebody is playing with you and they touch it, you shout, you scream, you react to it immediately. So one of the things, or one of the signs of unresolved trauma, is overreacting to things, being easily triggered in a particular area. That's even one of the things that will help you know that you are traumatized in this area, is how much of how you get triggered by it.
Wow.
Overreacting to things, that's number one. Then secondly is trying to isolate yourself is something that isolates people. You like to stay on your own, like to be on your own. Some people use the I am busy, so they miss the family meetings, they miss the get-togethers, they miss the union. They just want to be on their own. Sometimes it is not that you are an introvert. No, it's not.
Sometimes you're trying to hide something.
Many people who call themselves introverts are actually traumatized people, but they've not noticed the difference.
Thank God he said it was during my classes. I used to tell my people that don't always be quick to say I'm an introvert because you are told maybe that you don't have transport money.
Being an introvert does not mean you like to isolate yourself. I even see that introverts are more intentional about relationships. That when they want to come out for something, they can come out for it.
Not that you now be hiding.
Exactly. And then the third sign I want to point out is people pleasing. This one is very common, even with Christians. Very common with Christians. You know, we mask it with follow peace with all men. So even when people overstep their boundaries in your life, people step on you, do things they're not meant to do, to suck it in. Not you are masking it with follow peace with all men, but the real problem is that you are so afraid of hurting this person so that they don't walk away from you, because you don't feel that when they walk away that another person can love you or take care of you. So that's it.
This is such an interesting conversation, and I'm glad that we are having it. So if you're a Christian actually and you're watching this video, you should go copy the link of this video and share with somebody else, because that person that is a people pleaser that you've been asking to be better can watch this video and get their healing. Praise the Lord. Okay, now so many children of God do not believe in therapy. Because when I met her, the first thing, one of the things I asked her by the time she walked down from where she stopped to wait for me down to this place is, are people actually doing therapy? Because most people, especially in the East here, they don't always, yield to therapy. They feel that I'm not find money first and I'm talking about therapy. Let me eat first. Let me pay my children's school fees. Or maybe even if it's their children, which one is therapy for my son? Let him read his book. Let him go to school. Let him, which one is therapy at this age? They'll just have a lot of misconceptions. So what do you say about children of God especially? Because children of God actually also believe that I just need to pray in tongues. I just need to pray. I just need to go to church. I don't need therapy. What do you think?
Okay, I think the reason for that misconception is that people or Christians would always think that therapy is trying to replace God. Therapy does not replace God. The same way medicine, taking medications, does not replace divine healing. Actually, that you took a medicine and you got healed, it is also divine healing, because there are people who took that same medication and it didn't work for them. So therapy is a tool. When you pray in tongues, it helps your spirit, but your soul and your emotions need proper guidance and structure to be able to learn how to navigate things. So therapy is a tool in the hands of God for us to learn how to, manage our emotions and then relate with other people.
So children of God should consider therapy.
Exactly.
Okay. Next one is depression only psychological? Is there a health side to depression? Because let me tell you why I asked this question. In my school, I have ladies, mostly ladies. I found out that people that have low self-esteem are mostly females. Now, some of them will tell me that they don't know how they're feeling this particular week. They're feeling some kind of way. They have been crying. They have been, feeling some kind of way. And then before I start asking what the problem is, I ask them, are you about to see your period? Are you on your period? Or, what phase are you in your menstrual cycle and all that? So when you find out, when they answer, you find out that these people probably at that point they have that period, or it will happen next tomorrow, and you find out that their hormones might actually be playing out. So sometimes they're saying they're depressed, but after the period and every menstruation, you'll be fine. So is it only psychological? Is that a health side to depression?
There's a health side to depression actually, and most of the times it is sponsored by what you eat. Because the truth is that what you eat and how you live affects not just your health but your psychology, your mental health. So there's a health side to depression, and there are some medications that add to depression. The same way we have antidepressants as medicine, there are also some medications that some of their side effect is a low mood. You just go down, and when you're feeling that way, you begin to have memories of things you've forgotten, things you might have healed from, but you just start feeling bad all over again because of what is going on. So there's a health side to depression, and it's very, very real and valid.
And it's also psychological too.
Yes, very, very much.
Let's talk about that a little.
Okay. Psychologically, before you call something depression, it must have lingered to a point. most times we are quick to say, I'm depressed, but you're just feeling anxious. You're just worried.
Yes.
It's a temporal something. But depression is deeper than that. Depression is much more deeper than that. Depression has to do with when you've checked and there is nothing emotional, nothing so deep that happened immediately, but you're just feeling somehow. Then it's a call to check within and know if there's an unresolved issue.
Yes.
You get that? So there's a psychological aspect of depression, and that is one of the highest causes of depression, where it's in your body takes record of every single thing that happens to you, whether you do or you don't. Your brain takes record of it, and it just needs triggers to remind you of what is that. That's why sometimes you see a movie, other people are saying, oh, this movie is nice, but you are just irritated by the movie. It is not the movie, it is something. Your mind, your body is trying to remind you of something. It could be an experience you had, or an experience another person had, but left a scar on you that you are not even aware of.
This conversation, when I was writing this question, I was saying, actually, this conversation will not also make me feel some kind of way, because this kind of conversation is not just something that you are talking to people to learn. It's like Bible. You're reading it and it's reading you. You're also checking yourself.
To you as well.
So I'm trying to ensure that this conversation is interactive. But then I'm just here listening most of the time, because what you're saying actually makes a lot of sense. Okay, so the next question is, can a Christian love God deeply and still struggle with anxiety or depression? And depression, because they're different things, right? Can a Christian love God and still struggle with these things?
The answer is yes. And I'm going to give an example. One of the signs of depression is that it fights your sense of worth and identity. So an example, a very vivid example that many Christians can relate to, is Elijah. When he ran away from Jezebel, he didn't run away because Jezebel could kill him. At that point, it was a fight of identity. From a prophet, he was just checking, how do I go from a prophet who killed over 400 prophets of Baal to a prophet who was beheaded by a woman? Do you get that? So you can love God deeply, but yet suffer from anxiety and depression. A Christian is not necessarily immune to emotional problems. The only thing is that if you can use the resources available, you have more chances of recovering faster than others.
So I think I asked the question similar to this before, because some people actually feel that because I love God deeply, how can I be depressed? And it's so funny, because you see some people, actually, some mothers in church, some fathers and some of these elders tell you that, pray, child of God, you cannot be a Christian talking about depression. Well, I'm not saying that we should now worship depression and be like,
but it's not a sign of weakness.
Actually,
it's not a sign of weakness.
And these things matter. Things like somebody crying and you feel like it's a sign of weakness. Somebody being confused, you feel like, can I be confused? Like, you can't have life all put together always. And you know that at a point, God told
he sent him strength. Yes, he sent strength. Yeah.
So God actually, sometimes it's not even you're having his food, you're hungry.
And funny enough, denial is also part of depression,
because you have to be open to know that at this point
also part of it.
You are going through stuff, and you know that food will help you, or
you send something will
help you, or talking to. So sometimes
help is available.
Know that it's not that you're unchristian because you're going through these things. Okay, so the next question is, what childhood wounds do you see affecting Christian relationships today? There are a lot of them, I know, but I want her to say it herself, because she's the one that experienced the things.
Okay, so I'll start with an example. I know this leader, right? A leader in church. I know this leader. And one of the things I noticed about him was that he does not like to be in places where he's not in charge. You get that? He doesn't like to be in a space where he's not the focus. And then he does not, in fact, sometimes I get annoyed by the character. But after looking closely at it, I saw that this is an attention-starved child in an adult's body. This is somebody who grew up in a space where they didn't get attention. So growing up, and unfortunately or fortunately, I don't even know which one to call it, they come to a point of leadership. They begin to demand loyalty in a way that is not really healthy. They don't know that they are doing it. They know or they don't know, I don't know. But then this person is just looking for what he didn't have as a child from the people who are not even entitled to give it to him. Yeah, so there are many signs of childhood hurt and trauma. One of them, like I said, is lack of attention, abandonment, rejection, and then we talk of sexual abuse. One of the highest causes of long-term depression is sexual abuse. I think that's one of the worst things you can do to a child, because you're not just stealing their childhood, you're stealing their innocence, you're stamping an image in their hearts about your kind. For example, a girl who was molested by a man as a child, she can grow up seeing all men as wicked people, insensitive, and I think that is the source of most of the gender wars we see, where we just fight unnecessarily. Unnecessarily, they just hate the gender.
Some of them are married though.
Some of them are married, and in as much as it's not a good thing, sometimes when you hear their reasons,
you will find out that
you will need a high level of emotional intelligence to say it's not all of them. You get that? So there are a lot of signs, when you talk of people who lost their voice as children. Some stammerers were not stutterers from childhood. Some of them were people who were not allowed to speak. So when they now see the opportunity to do so, when anxiety and being nervous mixes up with low self-esteem, they begin to stammer. There are just a whole lot of signs that I would love to keep talking about.
I don't know whether we planned to talk about this, but let me just ask you, what made you go into Christian therapy?
My journey into Christian therapy is not a parallel line. First of all, I wanted to be a medical doctor. I was so passionate about medicine that as a primary 6, I was already reading biology textbooks. It was that deep. But then, as I kept on growing, loving God, following God, at a point I saw myself drawn to this emotional healing pain, because the truth is, I have been through pain, enormous amounts of pain. That time will not permit me to go into details, but I have been through pain. I would sometimes tell myself,
you have one that you can share.
Okay,
just one.
I think one of them, which I have actually come public about on few occasions, is the pain of sexual abuse.
Wow.
Yeah, mine was not a case of penetration or rape, but sexual abuse is just any touch, anything you do to somebody with sexual arousal in mind. And mine was not 1 or 2 cases. It was more where you are a child, but some older men deem it fit to use you as a romance toy. It broke me in so many ways, and it was just adding to the whole load of things I had to go through. I'm from the East, right? And I was born out of wedlock. So the whole thing, they were just coming together, turning me into things that I never imagined. But when God started helping me, I started healing. At a point, I asked one of my mentors that I need to speak with a Christian therapist, because I was having panic attacks when I sleep. So I asked her, I said, "Ma, do you know any therapist, preferably Christian?" That was the first time I used that phrase. Unfortunately, she said she didn't know any. So
actually, if you asked, I know, because I would go to social media and look.
She told me she didn't know any. So my healing was solo. I had a mentor who was following me up, but my healing was majorly solo. It was me and God, in the pain, in the tears. So gradually, I began to develop interest in emotional healing. So I took training, I went for certifications. But the day that changed everything for me was one day I was in the kitchen. I was praying about something else entirely. I was cooking and praying something else entirely. And then the Lord said to me, "You're going to study psychology." I said, "What?" Study psychology? How? But I've been asking you for years, what do you want me to study? You didn't say anything. So I took it that, your silence is that my ambition of medicine is okay. And then that day he asked me a life-changing question. He told me, and he said, "Psychology is my ambition for you. Medicine is your ambition. So choose the ambition you want to ambition." So that day I made up my mind that, okay, I'm going to have a switch of career.
Wow.
And I told my mentor, and he said yes, he has actually known, but didn't want to force it on me. I said okay. So, and that was where I just had to fold the medicine ambition, keep it one side, and then go all in. I went deeper into trainings. I've gone for psychological counseling training, depression counseling, and certified as well. Even alcohol counseling. I've gone into that, and I'm going. When you are going into this is just all my core is about. Yeah,
it's actually beautiful. That is what you mentioned about alcohol counseling, because I know people that are addicted to alcohol. so much that they're already seeing signs of their health deteriorating, but
And
they
they
don't even
can't
want to go
stop.
to that know what's wrong, because it will break them more to know that their organs are getting bad. So you are doing the Lord's work. For me, I don't do therapy. And when you even come for my coaching section, I tell you that this is the therapy section. But some people reach out to me and tell me that their sister is living somehow. They want somebody to. I'm like, I don't do that.
No man
God has
is
not
calling.
really- So it's very, very good. At least if I have those people, I can say, okay, I know of one. But then if you want coaching, I do. So the next question is, what are some signs that somebody is emotionally exhausted and they're hiding behind, I'm fine, God is in control, it is well. You know, all those are our Christian slogans.
Yeah.
When it is not actually well. You know, the fact that you're speaking positively doesn't mean you should admit that something is actually wrong. So what are those signs that you see? I know that somebody's emotionally exhausted.
You see, or you begin to notice that I'm emotionally exhausted when you all of a sudden lose interest in people. You know, biologically we are social animals, we're social beings, and we thrive in communication. That is the psychology behind prison. The psychology behind prison is that you committed a crime, you're not worthy of community, so we are taking you out to stay alone. And that is why in developed countries, when you're coming out of the prison, you're going straight to therapy, because they have to make sure you are rehabilitated to be able to fit into that community again. So it is not normal for somebody to hate company. It is not normal for you to always want to be on your own. It's not normal. It is nobody was created like that. Nobody was created like that. Isolation, that is number one. And then number two is you get easily triggered. You get easily triggered. For me, even with being a therapist, knowing so well about emotions, when I notice that I'm becoming easily triggered, I withdraw to recover myself. Because if you leave it like that, you become overly irritated and aggressive, and it begins to hurt the people around you. So one of the signs that you're emotionally exhausted is when you are easily triggered or becoming you just get irritated, just like that. Just get irritated. And then thirdly is when you start seeing less of life. We are told to live with eternity in view. Life can end at any point. But when you begin to lose taste, when life starts tasting bland to you, you don't see any reason to live, any reason to exist. It's a huge sign of emotional exhaustion that can easily translate to depression, and the person can from there become suicidal. Because when you lose taste of something, the next thing you want to do is to throw it away. So there are many signs. Another one is emotional numbness, where you no longer have feelings.
Like,
if somebody dies, you don't feel it.
Break my heart, I don't feel it. I'll just move on the next day.
It's not normal. It's not a flex. It's not a flex at all. Emotional numbness. You don't feel happy. You don't feel. You are just there. You're just in a state of oblivion. Nothing makes sense to you. These and many more are the signs of emotional exhaustion.
Wow. This conversation is getting interesting and it's opening my eyes, and I hope it's opening yours. If you have not subscribed to this channel, do want to subscribe to this channel. So some people, from the way they behave, you would see that these people had a traumatic childhood. And even when they are telling you about their childhood, you will find out that some people were raised by soldiers, where you don't make a mistake. In fact, if you make a mistake, you out of fear not to make a mistake, you will now make the mistake. Then they grow up trying to give out the same thing.
Give out the same thing they receive.
So they have so much
and sometimes it's unconscious. Because in my study of the human mind and behavior, I've seen that human beings are like computers. It is what you type into the keyboard that you see on the screen. So but a healed human being, a whole human being, is the one that decides that the fact that I received this thing does not mean I should give it out. The fact that I was stereotyped, I was body shamed, these are some of the things you don't talk about.
And sometimes they don't really. It's not like they intentionally want.
They don't know. They don't. It's just unconscious.
So patterns keep repeating. You see, this thing is important, and that's why I was telling you that. Even though some of people here they want to chase money and all that, when they understand truly, they'll come for it because they need it. When people don't have awareness, they don't care. But when they do, they want it and they talk about it.
One of the signs for me that I had healed from, the things I went through as a young girl, as a teenager, is that I began to see my contribution to it.
So how do we know that we've emotionally healed? Now, many people are broken in relationships and they don't know. So let's talk about the signs that you see in somebody and know that they are broken in their relationships.